Season 20 of the Go Battle League will start in September, which isn't too far away. The past few move updates this year have been pretty minor and not really that impactful, but that's why we're here to come up with 10 move updates that we'd like to see in the GBL's 20th season, so let's get right into things. Welcome back everyone. So with this video, we're going to have 10 move buffs, where I'll be proposing changes to the stats of moves in Pokemon Go. This will be a little different from perfecting Pokemon, which is more focused on adding moves to Pokemon. But starting off with move buff number 1, we'll be looking at the rather infamous Parabolic Charge. This move has had an interesting history where it sat in the code with really bad stats for a while, but it was set to appear with Dedenne and the Helioptile line. When Dedenne released in December of 2021, they erased it from its moveset pre-release, but the Helioptile line did get the move when they were released a year after, and Dedenne later got the move back in a move update. And Bellibolt has the move as well, but it's still garbage. So let's change that. We're going to be decreasing Parabolic Charge's energy cost to 45 and giving it a guaranteed buff to the user's defense. Essentially, this just makes the move a clone of Discharge, just with an added buff, which is much more respectable, and while it sounds perhaps like it's too strong, it's really not. Heliolisk and Dedenne are not very bulky Pokemon, and have a lot of weaknesses already, so giving them a move to deal decent damage and boost their defenses would be a huge help, and while Bellibolt is a bulkier Pokemon, its mono-electric coverage would still hold it back from being too OP, but this I think would make it a stronger electric wall in limited formats. Next up is Rock Blast, a fairly mediocre rock-type move that's just used for baiting by Pokemon like Heracross and Alolan Graveler, plus some others that don't really see any use, so why not buff the move? I would say just bringing it down at 35 energy would be sufficient, making the move a little more spammable for its users. I think Heracross and potentially Crustle would really enjoy this change. Plus, the move could also be given to others like Stakataka and Gastrodon to make them more interesting. Switching over to fast moves though, and there are plenty of bad ones, but the first one I wanted to talk about isn't really that awful, just one that you don't see often. I'm of course talking about Sucker Punch, a dark-type fast move. Most users of it are either too obscure, or they have better moves like Snarl, Shadow Claw, or something like Wing Attack. But it's that latter move that I'd suggest making it a clone of. So many moves have the exact same stats as Sucker Punch, but all got +1 energy, including Powder Snow, Karate Chop, Quick Attack, and Wing Attack. And doing the same with Sucker Punch would be interesting because you'd see more dark fast move pressure compared to something like Snarl. Not only would Pokemon like Galarian Moltres, Spiritomb, and Yveltal all have better fast moves now, but others like Bisharp and the future Grimmsnarl would really like it as well. Another fast move that I'd love to see buffed would be Extra Sensory. This is a pretty mediocre psychic fast move, not having the high power of Confusion, nor the high energy of Psycho Cut, just an uninteresting in-between. I went back and forth on how to buff this move. I originally thought just giving it 2 more energy to put it in line with Double Kick, but that honestly made me think it would make Lugia too good. So instead, I think adding 1 energy, but also 1 damage would be pretty nice. One could look at this buffed Extra Sensory as Ice Shard with 1 more energy, or Bubble with 1 more damage. Now for those who would most like this buff, I think it would give various legendaries a better fast move, giving Suicune something to hit fighting types, plus Uxie, Claydol, and of course Lugia more energy generation. Now for Lugia, I think it would be more of a side grade. Worse damage and typing seeing that Dragon Tail is useful in the Master League, but it would get to Sky Attack and Aeroblast a bit faster. I think that would keep it from being too overpowered. Moving back to the charged moves though, we have Twister, a pretty forgotten dragon charged move. It's really bad compared to Dragon Claw and Breaking Swipe, so why not change that? I propose lowering its energy to 40 while buffing its power to 60, making it a dragon-type version of Mud Bomb. This would give an interesting dragon charged move option for Gyarados that is an outrage, while also giving Shelgon a cheaper charged move and Fearow a nice coverage option. This move could also be spread to Pokemon like Milotic, Kingdra, Salamence, and Serperior for cheaper moves or coverage. Next up is Trailblaze, a move that has seen some pretty wide distribution the past year or so. It was added to dozens and dozens of Pokemon across a few season updates, but beyond 2 or 3, the move isn't really preferred by that many, mostly because it's pretty tame. For moves that boost your attack, they need to be less costly so the Pokemon can take advantage of the boost sooner. A 50 energy boosting move means that it may not get to it until half of its health is gone. But that said, I'm not actually proposing that they lower the energy cost. It's Pokemon like Greedent who make me concerned for that. Instead, I think they should just make its power more respectable. Grass is a pretty underwhelming type too, so I think they could get away with raising it to 75 power. I don't think the move would be too powerful, instead just being above average. It would also help with the dominance of water types in the meta. If it were too strong though, I'd still settle for 70 power. Now the next move is kinda like Parabolic Charge, albeit a bit less bad. Bone Club is a move that is very limited in those who can use it, because it's just the Cubone family, and none of these Pokemon are that great in PvP. Alolan Marowak is definitely solid, but with a rise in more water and ghost types, it's definitely not as good as it once was. And yet, their cheapest move is Bone Club, a 35 energy move with only 40 power, which is pretty bad. I would suggest bumping up its power all the way to 55, in line with Weather Ball, Aqua Tail, and Cross Chop. Marowak definitely wouldn't be too strong with it, and Alolan Marowak is still a pretty vulnerable Pokemon, so I don't think it would make it that broken either, but it would push AWAC into a much more respectable place in the PvP meta. Now I'm cheating a bit with this next one, but it's all 3 Elemental Fangs. All of these fast moves have the same stats, so I think they would all be buffed alongside each other. My suggestion would be adding 1 more energy to each, turning them from lackluster moves into 2-turn clones of moves like Dragon Breath and Confusion. Now for Fire Fang, not many would really see much benefit from this move, but I think Mawile would love having a fire coverage move with decent damage and solid enough energy generation. Reshiram as well could use it to surprise some Steel and Fairy types in the Master League, but it's probably still worse than Dragon Breath. Zacian has it too, but I think it would want to lean more into its charged moves with either Quick Attack or Snarl, more so than having some fire damage. For Thunderfang, not really that much either. It could make Manectric a spice pick, but I do think Thunderfang Steelix could be a little concerning, though it would still easily be walled by ground types. Also, if we ever saw Zekrom get it, I think it could do some fun things in Master League PvP, plus it'd be a really big addition to it in raids. But Ice Fang is the big one, and the whole reason I wanted these Elemental Fangs buffed in the first place. I think Arctibax and Baxcalibur would seriously consider this move over Dragon Breath in PvP. Seeing that it would be super effective against the same dragons just like Dragon Breath, but also give additional coverage against flying and grass types. I think Suicune could also finally see more serious use in the Ultra League with this buff, and if it ever received this move, Kyurem could be a big beneficiary of this move as well, becoming not just a great counter to Master League Pokemon like Landorus and Zygarde, but also a top tier ice attacker in raids. Speaking of biting based fast moves, Bug Bite could use some work as well. Or really most of the bug moves, but Bug Bite getting 1 additional damage could make things like Forretress and Araquanid a lot more interesting. Pretty simple, but a good one. Buff the bugs. Now one last move I'd like to see buffed is Power Gem. This move is hardly used, unless if you're forced to use it like on a Shadow Sableye. Most Sableye are purified so they can run Return instead. And don't get it twisted, I'm not asking for Power Gem to become better than Return, but rather buff it enough to make it an alternative to Return. You'd run Power Gem for a cheaper move and rock coverage, and Return for more raw power. As such, I think making Power Gem 55 energy and 90 power like Thunderbolt and Ice Beam would be a nice change. Sableye would have a nice alternative option, but it would also let others like Vespiquen utilize the move to more success. But now, we're turning it over to you. What are your thoughts on our proposed changes, and are there any other moves you'd like to see buffed or even nerfed? Let us know in the comments below. If we get enough proposals, we may make a follow-up video highlighting and discussing some of them. And if you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Obviously, when Season 20 does come around, we'll be doing an analysis on what the changes actually are. And while these move ideas were just on the PvP side of things, let us know if you'd like to see this kind of video for the raid stats of moves. There's definitely some moves we'd like to see buffed in raids and gym battles, like Iron Head and Seed Flare. Until next time though, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.